And welcome back, everybody. Today we've got a special guest. We have a genomics expert, president and co-founder of San Diego-based LunaDNA. Don Barry is here. Hey, Don.
Hi there. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, for a little bit of just context, I have been watching some of your TED Talks and some of the other things that you've done, and just it really helped me understand genomics a little bit. So what is genomics, and why is that important for me to understand my genome?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, genome is just a fancy word for the entire collection of your DNA. And, as you know, DNA is the code for life. All living things have DNA. And, as we think about the future of medicine, whether you think about the word precision medicine, individualized medicine, personalized medicine, the idea of informing your care as well as your wellness, based on a better understanding of your blueprint of life, so that we can be more specific to understand, the health strengths that you can really dial up, and the weaknesses, now and in the future, that we can look at lifestyle, environment, nutrition to work around. So it's really just understanding our unique biology, our unique blueprint, and doing healthcare in a more proactive way versus what some would argue is currently a more reactive way. Something's broken, something hurts, I march to the healthcare system, I get it repaired. So thinking about it in a more proactive, informed, individualized way through an understanding of our biology.
Yeah, now, and you've been in this field for quite some time. Did you always know that you wanted to be in genomics, or was there that special moment where you thought, this is it, this is my passion?
Yeah, I've always felt, and I think this comes from growing up. We didn't have a lot as a family. My father had a ton of health issues, and I had this, feeling early on in life. I was an athlete, I've, knock on wood, never had any big health issues, that, everybody should have the opportunity to have a clean bill of health. And so just operating from that feeling, that thesis. And then as I got into college, learned more about DNA and said, okay, if everybody, should have a clean bill of health, what a great place to start, than our DNA. And so that's what led me into a career in genomics and DNA, and ultimately now more broadly in healthcare, saying, I guess the first phase of my career, working in a startup, then working with Illumina, can we make the generation of DNA data cheaper, faster, better? Mm-hmm. And then I think, San Diego and Illumina and other companies have done an awesome job in that. And now the next phase is, can we really extract the most knowledge of that out of that information to achieve better health outcomes? So I always knew I wanted to, pursue a life where everybody could live, a high quality of life, good health, good health care. And genomics seemed like a natural place to really position myself to make an impact in the world.
Right. And then again, from listening to your talk and to some of your story, I know that I think it was around 2012 or thereabouts, you actually lost your mom and dad the same year.
Yeah, that was rotten. That was, a life experience that intersects everything you are, a parent, a wife, an employee, someone who's, done well in biotech. All your worlds sort of collide in those moments. And, for me as a professional, as I think I shared from the stage, what I was talking about, this precision medicine, genomically guided healthcare, understanding the molecular biology of our disease versus the physical manifestation of it, boy, all of that came right back, and you live it and you see it and you feel, frankly, a bit like a failure, watching your parents just, throw chemo at it. It doesn't work. Now you're in hospice, and you're in hospice for longer and longer and longer than you thought. And then that's the end of that. So it was just rotten, but I think it solidified my, place as a professional in this world, that we got to work harder. We got to work faster. Patients can't wait. And, health is something that is fragile, and we have to invest in it. And I invested it every day with my life and as a professional.
So it sounds like that really made you ultra focused as well, and keeps you going to really, pursue genomics and the concept of being, predisposed to some different things.
Yeah, no, I always feel like
Yeah.
the best professionals bring, your brain to what you do, your heart to what you do, even your gut instincts to what you do. And that brought all of it together. So much so that I left the East Coast and relocated to San Diego. A little of it was I got to Control Alt Delete and get out of Dodge for a little while here because it was,
Yeah.
pretty intense. But also, I want to double down. I want to make the biggest impact as fast as I can in San Diego. We're the home of precision medicine. We make the tech, we put it to work in the healthcare system. We aren't afraid of being innovative. We invest in really what people are going to do, maybe a little less of, pedigree on the East Coast and West Coast. Is really who are you and can you have an impact? So made it a lot of life decisions after that period of time in my life, and haven't looked back.
Well, it's amazing to me, and I'm the worst as far as coming into my health is concerned. I mean, I feel like I keep in good shape, but in the business world, and I'm in real estate, so we're always looking to mitigate risks and plan for different things. We hire attorneys to look at the leases so we can plan even harder, right?
Outsource your health.
Right. But when it comes to my health, I have no idea about my DNA, and even the thought of sequencing your genome for predisposed things that could, I think you said it in one of your talks as well, is don't wait till it's broken.
Yeah. Well, I think if we look at all the contributors to health and quality of life, it's been argued that your genome, contributes to between 30 and 40% of your health outcomes, with the rest being made up of, do you have access to good quality healthcare? What's your lifestyle like? What environment do you live in? What nutrition decisions that you make? So the reality is, whether you kind of know your DNA or not, those other influencers I just mentioned are extremely, extremely powerful. So it's not that you're doing a bad job, Bob, of managing your health. There are certainly more powerful outside influencers, but there are cases to be made for engaging in the science before you need to. Some fields include understanding if you have a family history, for example, of cancer, maybe understanding some of your health predispositions to that. Looking at a field called pharmacogenomics, understanding how your body absorbs, distributes, metabolizes, and excretes, medications. And certainly if you're planning a family, understanding anything that you may be a carrier for. So there's all kinds of different ways to leverage DNA at different points in your life. You don't have to jump into it all at once in a moment, but rather engage with that as you go through different points in your lifespan.
But just thinking again of me specifically, because I think a lot of people have the same kinds of challenges where my father died young, and my grandparents or my grandfathers died young as well. I should really look into that and find out what it is that I could be predisposed to.
Yeah, these are all personal decisions, of course. There's some people that prefer to let the song of life, play out. I'm on the board of the Alzheimer's Association, and we have these discussions all the time with people who, especially with such a nasty disease like Alzheimer's, where we don't have a cure. The best we can do is try to prevent and delay. It's a personal decision, how much you want to know. But I would say, in San Diego here, we're very forward-leaning. Talk to your doctor about your family history and see what type of screenings and regular monitoring you might want to do. I mean, you owe that to your wife and your family to do that, right? So, but again, it's a personal decision.
Tell me about, you mentioned when you moved to San Diego and really kind of being involved in this fantastic ecosystem of life science and data. And tell me what your experience has been like.
Well, I think San Diego is just amazing. Like I say, we're innovative here. We build the tech, we put it to work. I think we're very responsible about how we think about the deployment of the technology. I'm on a data science alliance recently formed, which you'll hear more about later, where our thesis is it's not enough just to build tech and deploy it, but really understand, as we think about data, how it's gathered, how it's managed, how it's used, how it's, kept for the long haul, or if it's kept for a long haul. We really think, 380 degrees around all the stuff we do here, which I think is fantastic, and it's such a collaborative environment. It's not by appointment only. It's not what degree do you have, and I'll decide if I'll meet with you. It's an extremely collaborative environment, and we think for the long haul. We invest for the long haul. So I'm just delighted to be here, and it's been such a great experience. I feel very much like I'm home here.
Great. And do you feel like that's going to continue? Everyone that I've talked to here recently has just been so bullish on the life sciences industry, specifically in San Diego.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I believe so. I'm invested in such. And what I think is also pretty awesome about San Diego is, small businesses. So as you know, businesses with less than 100 employees make up 90% of our businesses. And we are high tech, biotech, life science. And if COVID was any example of that, science has gotten very real for us, right? And infectious disease and our health. I think we have all experienced the fragility of our health. So I think as we go forward, thinking about holistic health, the environment we live in, nutrition, maximizing, our time on this planet in a high quality of life kind of way. I can't think of a better sector to be in at this moment in time, in a better place. So I think the future is extremely bright. It's always been bright here. I think it's even brighter.
Yeah. So another thing that I've heard you mention in the past is the concept of our healthcare system is really set up well when something is broken, right, and something happens, but maybe not so good on the preventative side.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's always work to do there. I would say, out in San Diego, there's a good chance if you talk with your doctor about, just say, for example, DNA sequencing, you'll have an informed discussion with them. And I think that's great. We've obviously have to smooth that out across the nation. So we have health equity in that kind of way. And I think if you talk to your doctor about prevention and family history, you'll enjoy a more proactive healthcare experience with that doctor. And if you don't have a doctor that does that, I think you can make a change and go to a doctor who does, and talk to your friends and who's working well with their doctors, et cetera. So, but it's a great place to be on this coast when we're thinking about more proactive preventative healthcare.
And so when we're talking about genomes and how they can help us personally, it sounds like it's really the amount of data that really needs to expand right now.
Yeah, we have, I would say, data, specifically DNA data, all those GATCs, those aren't so much in short supply. What I believe what we need to do now is really enrich that data more robustly than we have in the past. So we went through an era of let's generate mountains of DNA data. And then we went through an era of let's generate, mountains of electronic health records. And I personally feel the cure to cancer is not sitting in either one of those mountains. The way we are going to decode health and quality of life is to bring together that DNA data alongside clinical medical data, and very importantly, alongside lived experience. So thinking about, I'm an advocate for women's health, and women's health is highly dependent on many social determinants. So income, education, employment, social connections, community, safety, et cetera. If we acknowledge that those things are important to our health, which I'm sure we all would, we need to bring those also into the research equation. And when we do that, research will be more representative of the human condition, and such the discoveries will also include those. So that's all to say is I think DNA data is great. I think medical transparency and having access to electronic health records is also great. But if we're going to really get to the next generation of research, we need to include all of that lived experience. And what we like to say is more patient-led discovery, more people-centered discovery. And that's why we built Luna. That's what I believe very firmly is the next generation of research.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about LunaDNA and what you're involved with there.
Yeah, so we started Luna with the core thesis that the way research is done, retrospective, fragmented, episodic, we can do better. And so what we built in this technology platform is a way for communities to come together, gather data, and invite researchers to that data. And so communities, in our definition, are any group or social unit. So they can be patient networks, advocacy groups, they can be geographic groups, affinity groups. We have women's studies, we have vet studies, et cetera. So the notion of community is a social construct. And the platform allows those communities to come together and form, gather all the data that otherwise, in the past would only have been accessible to a well-funded researcher. So thinking about DNA files, electronic health records, survey instruments, wearables, et cetera. And then to serve up that data in an environment with associated tools that the communities themselves can start to do that research, or they can invite researchers to that data. So we get at this idea of community as a great source of wellness, as, in my opinion, the new source of truth. But also, data needs to be treated in a way that it's not being propagated, that privacy is not being broken, that you're not losing control of your data. So serving it up in a space where research can happen, where people don't lose control of that data and have privacy protections. That's what we've built in Luna. And we're just so excited to have a number of communities doing their own research, bridging with researchers, and really bringing their lived experience to bear in research.
And so as an individual, I can share my health records or my DNA with LunaDNA?
Absolutely, and it's almost in a proactive way. So this is I've got to think of a better analogy than this, but it's the opportunity to sort of donate your body to science without having to die. I mean, it is a digital reflection of your body, and that's very valuable. And a researcher could come along and say, look, I'm looking for males of this age who want to engage in a particular research opportunity around X, Y, and Z. You can decide if that's something you want to participate in. And by doing that, you can make research more robust. It certainly will go faster. It's certainly more cost effective in that way. And your data, you can participate in an infinite amount of studies. So you see how this could create a lot of efficiency.
Yeah, I'm smiling because that was the first thing I thought of as well, was the organ donation analogy.
That's valuable too. So we'll do that as well, but there's something you can do now.
Right. And why not do it while you're alive?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are you seeing as some of the challenges, as I think the company's been 3 or 4 years now?
Yeah. I would, COVID, having we did not factor into our external environmental risks a pandemic for a year, but that allowed us, a lot of time to really focus internally, continue to build out the platform while clients sort of figured out what was going to happen in 2020. So, I think it's just the usual, startup opportunities or challenges, building a team, hiring, software folks are real in high demand right now. So I think it's all the usual challenges of building a company, but I can't think of a better place to do it and a more rewarding, opportunity and mission to follow here. So it's all good. It's a tough journey. There's nothing harder than building a company. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on one of the things that you said before about how people just want to kind of let the song play out.
Yeah.
Is that a real challenge for you as well? Just people just don't want to know. I don't want to know what I'm up against.
I would say not in this platform, because you control the studies you want to participate in, you control the researchers you want to engage with, et cetera. So you have a lot of that control. So we don't see that. I would say, some of the fields where that gets more challenging is, I've already referenced in Alzheimer's and dementia, there are a lot of discussions, and friends that have parents who are struggling with, I can tell mom has, 15 of the 20 signs, but we don't want to go to the clinic, or I know I should probably look into my DNA for predispositions, but I really don't want to. Those are some of the more challenging conversations. But as it relates to joining Luna, we don't have those challenges.
As we start to come out of the COVID situation, already we're seeing a lot of tech companies that are starting to go back to the office, and we're talking about growth now instead of what are we going to do? Are you seeing the same? Are you expecting to grow rapidly as things get back to somewhat of a new normal?
Yeah, we're gonna maybe make up for a little lost time in sort of hiring in 2020. We're rethinking about space. So we just had a meeting as a team last Friday with a, kind of an exciting opportunity is what do we want out of our office and space experience? Let's do, whatever it is we want. And if that's coming to I think everybody's agreeing, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday in an office it's definitely not the way it's going to go back. But is it 3 days a week in person, or is it one whole week every month? All these different permutations of opportunities to engage, recognizing that cultures and values, I think we're all in a digital world still hopeful, but maybe not so optimistic that values are easily conveyed over digital. So there is going to be a combination of in-person and remote in the future. But yes, growing the clients, growing the communities on the platform, building the team, these are all goals in the second half of this year.
Well, it's a fascinating discussion, I think, and maybe it's just for me because this is what I do. But talking to people about how they're going to handle the virtual versus in-person, because you want to have the in-person, but virtual is working so well in so many different ways, and things are just changing. It used to be if you wanted to have a conference call, you just had a conference call, right? Yeah. But now they're always Zoom calls, and you have to decide, am I going to be on? Or am I not going to be on?
I've gotten to say that, like, should we have just an old-fashioned phone call rather than looking at each other? It is super interesting. And I guess I would say I'm old enough to remember when Skype was first launched and telecommuting was a new word, and woo, we don't have to pay money on rent. This is going to be so more, the operational efficiency. But then we swung, I would say, a ton in the other direction, which was workspaces became living spaces. We had stocked kitchens and gyms and showers, and you could practically sleep at your office. So now we're going back to, wow, like everything old is new again. Like, let's do this remote thing. So I think we'll just keep sort of going back and forth on that. But I do see a future where we're going to realize in-person interactions are just critical, and values and culture is conveyed through seeing each other and experiencing with each other, and over pizza and over happy hours, those type of things.
For sure. It's happening. A lot of people are like, well, let me just get the mask off first, and go to the store, and then we'll talk about, what's going to happen later. So I totally understand that.
We started to get together as a team with happy hours, and it is just so surprising giving somebody a hug and just seeing a smile and a person in the real world. I mean, the hugs are extra long, and there's just that moment of like, it's good to see you. No, it's really good to see you. Gosh, what a year we've been through.
Well, and I've again been talking to we've had some high tech company experts on CEOs of some of the bigger tech companies in town, and one of the things that we talk about, and I've gotten some insight from, how it relates to the life science area, and just like your company, it's really you're a tech company in the life science genomics area.
Yeah, nope, for sure. I mean, I would say, absolutely, we're in the data space, the discovery space, the research space, but I would say we're special in that we're really merging high tech with core ethos of fairness, and again, privacy and control and transparency and choice. We're merging all the high-tech data stuff, discovery stuff, genomic stuff, with core principles of fairness. And when we do that right, we think that's the recipe, that's the combination to bring more people into this opportunity for research as discovery partners than they've never been done before. Not to mention, leave them home, to participate in research. The idea, before of clinical trials where everybody had to march to a trial site or get on an airplane with a sick kid, or, those type of futures. I hope that future is done as COVID sort of forced those changes in trials. But leave people home, treat them fairly, be inclusive, do right by the data, and I think we'll do right by discovery and ultimately better healthcare.
Well, I think it's fascinating, and it just sounds awesome for you as well. Last question is on a personal note. It's from reading and talking to you, it really it's clear that you found your passion and what you're going after. For those that maybe haven't, whether they're young or older like me, that are still looking for their passion, what's your advice to them?
Oh gosh. Well, as I said a little earlier in our chat, I think, to live a life of purpose, you really have, well, you got to do a lot of things in life, but as it relates to just your employment and work and career, I think you've got to bring, your heart and your mind to work every day. And that notion of just doing a job to get a paycheck, that's one way to live life. But I would argue we spend a lot of time working, and you should really, really enjoy what you do. And I know that sounds super cliche, but I would ask yourself, especially after this whole year of weirdness, what do you love to do and what are you good at? And then just really think about that, and think about, do I want to travel? Do I want to be in office? Am I more an introvert? Am I more an extrovert? Do that sort of internal inventorying, if you will. And then next, engage with mentors. I think mentors are just, unbelievable. I had a great talk with a woman this morning that's applying for a really important job at a big tech company. There's a whole bunch of mentors out there, including myself. Talk about this with them. Really, really stress test, your thesis on what you want to be when you grow up, and recognize we're always growing up. And then find a company that not only does that, but really has core values that are set in being a good company and doing right by employees. I always say, like, a boss's job is to grow you, right? Because inherent in that is a lifelong employee, inherent in that is goal achievement, but also inherent in that is your professional growth. And these mentors and finding these bosses that are very committed to your growth and the mission of a good company is everything. So understand what you want, engage with mentors, and find a company that you don't make sacrifices on any of those things.
Perfect. Dawn, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
here today. Really appreciate it. I can't wait to have you back on again. So
we see each other in the real world too.
Yeah,
That would be amazing.
right. That too. Well, thanks again, and continued success with LunaDNA, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.